Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Anybody have anything they'd like to add to the agenda? Get a motion to accept the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written this evening. And I would just like to make one comment, and that would be I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you for the properly posting the selectmen's meeting this evening with the agenda.
A second.
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Announcements. The public participation policy applies to all selectmen's meetings. A copy of it is on the back of each agenda posted in the meeting room and on our website. There'll be a rabies clinic for dogs and cats at the Alton Central Fire Station at 65 Frank C. Gilman Highway, Route 140, on Saturday, April 9th, 2022, from 12:30 to 2 p.m. The cost per shot is $20. Microchipped is $40. Dog licenses available for Alton residents only. The town clerk tax collector's office will be closed on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022 to attend the annual tax collector's spring workshop. At this time, if anybody has any public input, I'd ask them to come up. Seeing none, we'll move on. New business, Belknap County Conservation District Forest Stewardship Plan.
Thank you. Gene Young, Conservation Commission. The reason I'm here this evening is last year, the Belknap County Conservation District approached us and asked if we'd like to participate in a grant application for funds to do a management plan on town-owned forest lands. We came to you at that time, asked permission to do that. You said, okay, so we did. The grant was awarded. We were successful to the tune of $5,000. The purpose is to do a forest cruise and develop a management plan on the Gilman Pond parcels. 3 parcels involved, total 415 acres. We've kind of had a management plan out there, which has been basically don't do anything. But we have been approached by the wildflower folks, Natural Heritage Bureau. As you know, there are known stands of Isotria medialoides out there, which is a rare and endangered species. In fact, that's what drove the conservation of these parcels. And what the managers from the state are finding is that the forest canopy is becoming too thick and the flowers are being shaded out. And they've approached us a couple of times to do a little bit of thinning. We've done some on very small patches, which seem to be successful. So we'd like to develop a management plan that addresses those issues, takes into account water quality, wildlife, recreation, aesthetics, and so on. So the amount that was offered in the grant was $5,000. We're not sure that that's going to be enough to do a management plan on 415 acres. So we put a couple of $1,000s extra in our budget this year, which we can use to supplement if we need to. So that's where we are. I'd like your approval to go ahead with this grant and see if we can get that work done this summer.
I entertain a motion for that.
First, Mr. Chairman, I think you have to accept the grant as the Board of Selectmen. Is
Oh,
that
yeah,
true,
okay.
Mr. Administrator?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
you have to accept the grant, and accept the funding.
All right, so do we make the motion
Mr.
to,
Chairman, I make a motion to accept the $5,000 grant match, any match required $5,000 grant for the Conservation Commission.
I'll second it. Oops, sorry, Will.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to allow the Conservation Department to expend the $5,000 on the conservation program for the 415 acres.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
If I may,
Yeah,
before,
I'm sorry, discussion, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I think I didn't mention it in the paper I gave you. It mentions that Belknap County Conservation District will actually administer the funds and disperse them. So there won't be funds coming to the town and out of the town coffers unless we have to supplement some of that $2,000 that we have in our own
Out
budget.
of your own.
Right, which
So-
you wouldn't have to come before the board to do that anyways.
Right. But I just wanted to clarify that there won't be money coming into the town and going out. They'll administer that. We don't even have to mess with writing a check for that amount.
But we still needed to accept it to have money spent on town-owned land, that's all.
Understand, but just being clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
Building permit. Leighton Mills Road, map 15, lot 30-1, approval.
Chairman, I don't believe the applicants are present in the audience. I don't see them here. To speak on behalf of it, they've submitted to build off of Leighton Road, which if you go down Gilman's Corner Road, it's off on the left. It's an old class 6 road. You have some department head reviews from public safety, from the fire department. Really, I mean, aside from somebody speaking to it, the information that's presented is the only thing we have here in front of us on that parcel.
There's really no concerns on the department other than bringing up the road to the minimum standards.
Right.
From the,
Right.
from the public
And
works
it's just
director.
an access concern. They want to be able to access their property. They got a lot of wetlands in the front. They want to be able to access through Leighton because the building site is way back.
Chairman, make a motion to issue a building permit on the class 6 road, Leighton Mills Road, map 15, lot 30-1 for John and Jennifer Irons, owners.
I'll second that. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Public Works Department, Liberty Tree Tennis Court resurfacing and striping. Evening, Kelly. Evening, Scott.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing?
So we put together this a memo here. Kelly's done a bit of research relative to the tennis courts at Liberty Tree Park. She had that information with me as well, and come to find out, the same company actually is also a vendor, approved vendor actually for the highway department. They handle our guardrail and fence contract. And I believe it's in their second year for that purpose. I've utilized this company before previously for this type of work, for doing the tennis courts, for crack sealing them and then sealing them up and restriping them. And would ask the board for consideration to have that company go ahead and do that work. There's very few companies actually that do that work. I'm only aware of, I think, ones that come into this region, basically about 3 different companies that actually do it.
And also, I did contact those three companies on September 27th and no one replied. And actually, someone had sent it to this company that we're recommending. There's 4.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Parks and Rec Department to resurface and repair restripe the tennis courts for $7,833.
I second that.
Discussion?
Only discussion is the same company's been doing it since I've been here, since we've had them, and we've never had a problem or a complaint or had to call them back for anything.
Yeah, I agree. Vermont Recreational does a lot of that stuff. So
How long ago was it done before?
It was reconstructed in 2015.
Mhm.
Previous, it was resurfaced in 2015. It was reconstructed in 2002. So 13 years later, it was resurfaced, and now we're looking at 7 years later.
Yeah.
The prices have gone up.
Thank you.
And also just the point of notice is it does get used a lot. There's a pickleball program that runs 4 days a week. There's 20 to 25 people there per day. So that's 400 people
It's getting used a lot.
Very
per
active.
month. So it's very popular. And also the 2 schools use the tennis courts for their programs. So there's a lot of different populations using it, different age groups.
Age groups, yeah.
Thank you.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Solid Waste Department, Public Works, replacement office trailer.
I put together this memo. I've been working with Scott at the transfer station, solid waste facility in regards to looking at the replacement for his office trailer that he has up there at the scale house. That trailer itself is showing some serious deterioration structurally with the flooring and such with it. And he has asked that and he has done the research and gone out and looked at other possibilities of replacing that unit, which is 20+ years old. It was purchased by the town approximately 12 years ago. Has served pretty well, I think, over those years. Talking with Scott, he's gotten a couple of different prices here, and in review of those, he's actually physically gone and looked at 2 of the units that were close enough to travel to. And he also did acquire about what new units cost as well, so you could have some comparison data to have that information. He actually revisited today because we weren't sure if in fact the trailer would still be there. He did go back over today and did also give it another overall look, just double checking everything. And the trailer is still there. The company is actually hanging on to it until after tonight and see what the board's decision is on it. It does afford him a unit that'll be about 4 feet longer than his current unit. If in fact you were to go with the 8x24, it also will be 4 inches higher, which will give a little bit more space in there. It's in good condition overall. Insulation is all good, and the mechanicals as well for both heating and AC. He would recommend, I guess, in prior to these type of expenses could come from either account. They do have an improvement account up there, which is a CRF, or the recycling revolving account. He and I've talked about it a little bit. My recommendation to the board would be to pull it from the recycling revolving account. It's about $450,000 in that account. And since this is actually taking care of those ins and outs, and we collect fees by utilization of the trailer to weigh everything out for everything.
Does it have axles on it now, so it can be towed here?
Yes,
Will they deliver it, or do we have to pick it up?
we have to pick it up.
And is that the first one on the list?
That's the first one on
Yes.
the list for $6,000.
That has the heat and AC with it
Correct.
already.
The only thing we'll have to do to it, Scott said, would be to add another window, apparently for it. He feels that he can acquire that pretty easily. And I think another secondary door will have to be added, but he said they had to do that to the unit that they have now.
Any intention to do anything with the old one?
Well, for me, I would say to scrap it. I don't see any other,
Just scrap.
other than, we could certainly put it out on muni bid there and see if anybody wants to buy it, because you could find a contractor maybe that wants to maybe try to refurb it and use it for a construction trailer.
I
on
was
site.
thinking more like in the terms of any of the other departments could use it for storage or anything like that. Just for something like that effect, if it was usable.
Is the floor running out on it like the?
Yeah, the floor is what would have, I mean, if you were gonna
All
keep it for a
cracked.
long term,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
you'd have
okay.
to, put some new
Beef up the
plywood in
floor.
it.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
cross
yeah.
members, it's pretty tender in there.
I looked at it quite a few times.
We have a lot of trailers and a lot of, I mean.
Yeah. was just a thought,
You're
yeah.
exactly right, though. We're always looking for a place to
Yeah,
store stuff.
Something to put some
Um,
storage in.
But we keep acquiring them. We're running out of
Mhm.
real
Places
estate
to put 'em.
all in.
So to scrap it, you'd end up having to tear it all apart to scrap it for metal, correct?
If we did, yeah, we'd have to, if we demoed it ourselves, we'd have to tear it apart and Scott would, demo out the actual, metal and the,
Mhm.
that and then piece it out with the frame and everything on it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to allow the Public Works Director to purchase item 1 listed on the memo today from United Rentals / Pac-Man located in Tilton, New Hampshire for the amount of $6,000
I'll
and to
second.
scrap the old office.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, could I ask for the next meeting that we review the town policy to increase the minimum bid for going out for bids? Right now it's $6,000, $5,000, $6,000. I think at this day and time and age, we need to raise that to $10,000. We can have that on the next meeting.
Yes.
American Legion Post 72 Special Event Application Memorial Day Parade.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'll second that. I don't, anybody's gonna have an issue.
They have everything arranged with the police department? And it all.
Everything's.
All
pretty
those in
much
favor?
Aye.
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 It's pretty much all the same status quo.
American Legion Post 72 raffle application.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, on to old business.
Get back up.
Public Works Department sidewalk maintenance equipment bid recommendation.
So in your packet, gentlemen, you have what the bid results were from us putting this out for bid. And what those results were based upon the different units that are available. And I've put together a recommendation here, which would be to move forward with the Wackeneusen WL 32 and implements with the extended warranty of 5 years. That unit, we've tried that unit as well on site. It does fit on the sidewalk. It's pretty narrow in a couple spots, but it does fit.
Sit through.
It also will be multi-purpose, so it can be utilized year round. So it is a uni loader and would be able to do small things. We would, have it at the highway department, could be utilized by grounds and maintenance, water department if they needed to get a small amount of material and put it into their 550 units, loam, gravel, sand, whatever, in order to backfill a, small repair or anything like that. So it does have that. It also has the capabilities of running accessory units on it as well for the front end, as far as putting forks on it, power broom, those types of things.
Mhm. I noticed on this one here, Mr. Chairman, right,
Absolutely.
that the Ambrose equipment what, didn't have it available for a power broom or the forks? It wasn't available, or is this not attached? It is attachable on it?
It does have the ability to attach it. They did not put prices in on that, on those two items. They're not sure what the availability is right now. But we, since then, have learned that we believe that the units that we have
Mhm.
will in fact be able to fit and be operated on it. So in other words, the
Oh.
broom, I learned that the broom that was for the Bobcat will also universally fit on this as well. As well as the forks will also be able to be utilized.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that will not be an added expense, and those are, from what I understand, in serviceable condition. We've got to look at the broom and double check that, but I think that that'll work, which will help out with our spring cleanup operation as well.
So Scott, the only other question I have for you is, the only place it is going to fit is top of Rollins Hill. There's just no way, because you got a stone wall there. Especially Main Street sidewalk from Village Store to the tip of the bay. That's going to be a toughest spot.
Right.
Is there plans in your department to start looking at that sidewalk and bringing it up to other standards to making it 5 foot wide?
So I've been, probably people have been seeing me. I've actually been walking on that section there. Made a couple trips so far and taken a lot of notes on that in different areas there, and we'll be scheduling a time to meet with New Hampshire DOT to take a look at that and the maps and right of ways. From what I understand, in talking with Courtney, because she's had to deal with some of that with the water, as you're probably familiar with, is that does come in and out in a couple different spots there to find out exactly what those right of ways are and take a look at that. I have looked at it a little bit, and I understand that there is a small amount of money that has been set aside to do some of the sidewalk revitalization. There's no doubt the wall issues are going to be the greatest expense in this whole project that way. The pavement itself, other than some areas I've designated out in that asphalt pavement for some repairs to be done, actually could take an actual overlay. It's whether or not we could actually do an overlay and then add on to it at the same time. In other words, go ahead and make the widening and go ahead and improve that, which basically is about another foot. We'd probably go about 18 inches and try to put a base in there, and then be able to try to compact that in, and then be able to add that with the overlay itself. But basically from the Village Store down, that sidewalk could in fact, because of the way the curb's set, could in fact take about a 1 inch overlay over it, and then still be able to pitch it so that the water comes back out to the curb. So that's how it would be picked up from the drainage. So I think that could work. And then we could actually spend more of our funds looking at those pinch points, being those walls. But that's going to be a major undertaking. Probably have to take care of it in small nuggets going down through. And I'm not sure with historical, you folks that have been here longer than I have would know about the historical aspects of how those walls are, that were the stone walls laid up situation versus the concrete wall.
The one at the top of Rollins Hill had a concrete wall that was torn out when we did the sidewalk back in the 90s. That was the most practical way, because we only had $50,000 and we did that project from Village Store down to the tip of the bay. We had to meet with a lot of landowners there because the part of the sidewalk went into their property. They signed off on it. Most of the state right of way is on the left-hand side going down Route 11, which would be the west side. The sidewalk, when we went with the DOT back then, we were putting the sidewalk right at the edge of the right of way. That's why it only ended up being 3 foot wide at the time, because we would have had gone in and done easements with the property owners to get the 4 feet. At that time, we didn't have the money. The highway crew ripped everything out. Hilti Corporation out of Ashland, I think it was at the time. They're the ones that did the job for us. The only reason I can tell you about this, I had to get up on town floor and apologize to the townspeople that we actually spent more than the $50,000 only because we used the highway crew to rip it all up. So they wanted the full total cost. That's why I've been kind of an adamant on this one, because even the dirt that comes off some of the slopes up there, if we could just shovel them back a little bit or shovel them off of there, we could get some of that 3-foot sidewalk back. And like I
Yeah.
said, I agree with the overlay, but I could see also if we wanted to put more money into it, why not do it like the rest of the sidewalks in town and doing concrete and get them the full width. So your uniloader would be up on it and not half off and half on, going
Right.
down the road.
Yeah, there's no doubt that section is certainly a big challenge. The concrete sidewalks, I think are going to be somewhat, going to have to save some money here, or
Right.
or put together, a big project, or do it in segments. Of course, it can be done in segments. But as we all know, when you end up doing that, you're going to end up pulling all your curb. So you're gonna have to pull all your curb, you're gonna have to reset all your curb, big expense here, labor wise, that way. So you're really gonna be getting into some pretty good money and or labor force usage, if in fact we do attempt to try to do that with some town funds to do that.
I have no problem with the asphalt. I mean, this asphalt has held up pretty good.
It's held up
for
pretty
the
good. I was
22
actually
years.
surprised.
The only problem is where you have some full driveways that are on that sidewalk, they kind of deteriorate there from the trucks and stuff like that. And then sometimes they block the sidewalks with their vehicles.
Right.
But something needs to be done. I mean, it's time. We haven't done much maintenance on them at all.
Yeah. We plan on, when we do the spring cleaning, I talked with Jack already, we plan on actually going through there and edging that back, very similar to what you talked about, going along through there and doing that and actually taking back the encroachment of all the sediment and some of the soils that have kind of creeped out onto we wanted to kind of find out where the edge was, make some accurate measurements on that. The other part is that we're gonna actually do, because of the new software that we're doing, is that I can actually pick up some of that sidewalk data and add it into our new software through iWork. We're going to do all the road survey, but I didn't see that it was really a value to do the sidewalks because it was quite pricey to be able to do the sidewalk surface condition. I figured a few times of me walking and getting my exercise at the same time, I could probably do the same type of assessment, pull some information together. And then as we go out there and do some of our maintenance, we could pull some of that information together. Courtney actually has a program that she utilized with the water department that we've now transferred that data over into the new system. And hopefully, with her assistance, we can use that and with her and try to get those points in so we can mark where our points are, like our tip downs for all of our handicap plates and that kind of stuff. So if we can get that data in, throw that in, I think we'll be headed in the right direction. And then we can start doing some cost estimating to look at some different options for you folks to decide how you'd like to spend the money or go forward with money, asking for monies.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to award the sidewalk maintenance equipment to Ambrose Equipment of Hooksett for a total $88,050 coming from two funds. The Highway Equipment CRF Fund of $44,050 and from the $44,000 from the ARPA funds.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Just one question.
Sure.
For the administrator.
Right.
We've been utilizing quite a bit the ARPA funds. Is there any question with the $44,000 being taken from the ARPA funds?
No, we're all right. That's the last accounting that we had just off the first payment. We still had 95,000 plus or minus just over 95,000. And then, like I said, we're due to get our second payment, which is close to right around 270.
Okay.
270,000. That's the second half that we'll get mid-year.
Thank you.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Hazardous mitigation plan update.
All right, Mr. Chairman, what you have is back in December, I came to the board and talked about updating our hazardous mitigation plan and emergency operations plan. The emergency operations plan is still in the works as far as they're separate grants, but that is on its way. But we did receive our hazardous mitigation grant. And if you see on the second page, they have, or I'm sorry, I think it's the third page. There's a guidance for meeting minutes. So the minutes on the approval that we had to back in December weren't going to work for the grant. So I need to bring it back in front of you folks to accept the stipulations of the grant, and obviously the wording that they have for the meeting minutes is what they're looking for. When I send the grant back in, if you should accept it tonight, I have to include the minutes along with it.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the local hazard mitigation grant of $9,000. Along with that, I authorize the town administrator to sign on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
You just,
Or did you want it read the way it is on the third page?
well, they're asking that that you go on record, just furthermore, that acknowledging the cost of the project is 12,000 with a 25% $3 match.
Just reading that whole paragraph, basically.
Mr. Chairman, with my motion, the select board and majority vote accepted the terms of the Building Resilient Infrastructure Committee, BRIC, as presented in the amount of $9,000 to update the community's local hazardous mitigation plan. Furthermore, the board acknowledged that the total cost of this project would be $12,000, in which the town will be responsible for 25% match, $3,000.
Second.
And I can say,
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that fourth page, you'll have to change, correct?
sorry,
That
what's that?
fourth page, you'll have to change, correct? Fourth page had fire chief there.
Yeah, that was an example page. I had. What we're going to read your.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Alternative Housing Committee Liaison.
Mr. Chairman, when we did the restructuring, the last meeting, in front of me, the Alternative Housing Committee was not on that because it's a newly established committee. It wasn't usually part of the breakdown. So that's been brought up tonight to see if we can get a selectman assigned to that committee, to sit on that committee as a selectman's rep. For the,
I was last year.
where last year? Okay.
So I don't remember it from last year because
Yeah,
I
I
never
don't
saw it
remember.
listed anywhere.
I never saw it
Yeah.
either, but that's, I knew it was a discussion among
was a
zoning and
discussion.
planning, and
Yeah.
they've been talking about it. I believe that they were talking about it with their
Mhm.
the master plan and everything else
Yes.
too. Okay, so would you like to continue with that?
Yes.
I ask a question. Can you tell me about that housing committee? Anywhere on it?
What do you want to?
Well, I want to know, you hear the state and the federal government talk about affordable housing. Affordable housing for couples that are under $125,000 cannot afford a $350,000 home or a $450,000 home. You never hear our government talk about what are we going to do for these folks, married couples that are under $100,000 a year. All they could do is keep renting at $1,500, $2,000 a month. They don't show enough programs out there such as the FHA, New Hampshire Housing Authority, where these folks can go when they can show proof of rent for 5 years at $1,500 with 2% down. There's no education out there for these folks, so they keep renting and renting. So I guess in your housing committee, I would hope that you'd put in there for folks that are the 125, even 150 married couples down to the $40,000 and $50,000 range. What are we going to do for them? Because their rents just keep going and going. So at $1,500 a month that a lot of these folks are paying for apartments here in town, they've done that for 5 years. If they got into a program at 2%, such as FHA and New Hampshire Housing, they could afford a house.
Yeah, I agree with that because
Because so you always hear, and don't take this the wrong way, but when it came to this workforce housing, the only thing you hear from the government is policemen, teachers, firemen. You don't hear about the married couple that are under that 100,000.
Yep.
That's what workforce housing was originally established for, and they only used those three categories. And I found it very insulting to the working class people.
Yep.
I'm not saying the firemen, policemen, and
Right.
teachers aren't working class, but the ones that are out there, the carpenters working for a company or something, they're never mentioned there. And the couples that are making under 150, if you want to go that far. But if you're making $250,000 or $175,000, you should be able to afford what you got. It's the ones that are under that 100,000 thresholds they're stuck renting because they can't save enough of that down payment because all their money is going into the rents. So I guess that's what I'm looking for when we look at housing committee. Are we going to put something in there? You know, something like that.
That can be suggested and that can be brought up.
And more of condo duplexes for 2 owners, you know, something like that, because then those costs can be brought in a little bit tighter.
It was more in the terms at the very beginning of just some of the discussion was alternative housing being tiny homes, if you will,
Yeah.
or cabin colonies. And these were some of the things that were talked about at the very beginning, and then things got put to the side a little bit. So it needs to pick up and continue again.
Yeah.
So some of those things definitely can be brought up.
Because I noticed in the last few months now, more coming, more of our apartments, four apartment complexes are being sold. Some of those folks that have been in there for quite a while. It's my understanding their rents are going to be doubled.
And they have no place to.
And there's no place in Alton for them to go.
No.
If you talk to a lot of the single moms in this town, which I have over the years through the store and my rents, the reason they stay in Alton because the school system, elementary school system, especially with children with special needs, they say Alton is far superior than the other community around us. That's why they've come to Alton. And it would be shameful to see if they had to pick their children up and go somewhere else because they just can't afford to live here. And I'm just looking over the years, you keep hearing the state's big on it now, affordable housing, but they're not addressing it. They're still sitting at a $300,000 price range because of the cost and codes and everything. I understand that. But we need to educate them more on how they can get into these programs to help them. Because if they can show a history of paying their rent on time, not being evicted, $1,500, $1,700, $2,000, which we all know that's a lot of them are going there.
Right.
They can show that pattern. Why not educate them to go to New Hampshire Housing and FHA to say with a 2% down or something like that? That's a more affordable form.
Yeah, I think a lot of them get nervous that they can't afford a house, but you're paying $1,700 a month for an apartment and you'd be paying half that for a house if you had a mortgage on it. So I think, like you said, the education of it to just
Education, the initial
say,
start.
no, I think that's a good idea.
And I think that's one of our biggest things that the government and themselves, local, state and federal need to get out there more educational.
And this can all be brought up.
Yep.
And will be.
I just, when I see that, it kind of irks me just a little, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
All right. Appointments, boards, committees, and commissions.
Mr. Chairman, there's a list on the front. The applications are followed behind it, but there's a list on the spreadsheet on the front of applicants and, you know, what they're renewing is, or, you know, what committee it is or whatnot. One thing I will point out, just for the board's knowledge, we did do some research on it just to make sure I had some follow-up information. So under the water bandstand committee, you see there's an individual, Matthew Sargent, that
Yes.
is Nancy Merrill's son.
Yes.
He's just, he was a non-resident. We looked into it. There's no bylaws. There's nothing that prevents it. I know there, in the application, there was extensive family history behind the bandstand. So I didn't see any other issues with it.
It was
It's just
his
something-
grandfather.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. We did look at that because there was another committee we looked at that actually had bylaws that said outside residents welcome, and there were other ones that would actually, you know, limit it, whatnot.
Levy Park trustee has a non-resident on it. That was part of the trust when it was set up that way. It had to have a summer resident.
We need a motion for these.
Yes.
We have to motion for each one, or can we just make a motion for everyone?
Yeah.
One motion, all right. Can I get a motion to approve the boards and committees?
Make a motion to approve the applications for appointments for boards and committees of the Old Home Week Committee, Park and Rec Commission, Water Bandstand Committee, and Facilities Committee.
You want to do Parks and Rec Commission and Old Home Week Committee?
Parks and Rec and Old Home Week as well. Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on. Selectmen's reports. Mr. Morse. Any report? Anything you need to?
Nope.
Mr. Wentworth.
No, sir.
Nothing this time.
Nothing for myself this time. All right. Town administrator report. Can you guys hear, can you hear me?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the first thing, well, I might have been a little too close. The first thing I want to bring up is last meeting, the Public Works Director had brought up and got permission from the board to seek out and attempt to negotiate a purchase on a bucket truck up to $32,000. Well, they did make the arrangements. They went out, checked the bucket truck out, were able to negotiate at the $32,000 rate. Plus they got the truck DOT inspected, they got the bucket inspected, so that everything was put into working condition. And there was a couple of minor repairs that they had requested, the highway department had requested that they took care of for that price as well. So we're bringing it back up to the board to make sure that they're comfortable with them moving forward with the purchase.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of the bucket truck. I did talk a couple of folks and it was recertified. That was my main concern.
I'll second.
Discussion? We know the mileage on it? It's
I got
on here. I'm sorry, I didn't. Probably don't know
I
what it
didn't
is.
see it.
30 or something, or 30. If I got the right one.
112,705.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next thing I have for the board is at the last meeting, we talked about the reclassification for the administrative assistants. From the secretarial positions to administrative assistant to keep them consistent. Unfortunately, there was one position that was left off that list. Not intentionally, but because we didn't have it filled at the time, but the assistant at in the clerk's office is in the same position level. You'll see it's currently at the 1661. We raised all of those to the 17 on the min throughout all the departments. So I'm just bringing that back up to see if I can get the board's approval to add that into that previous category or the previous vote that we had taken.
So it would just be amending
It would be amending the max min scale that we approved last week to include the reclassification of the town clerk tax collector assistant from 1661 to 17.
that just puts her in line with everybody else, correct?
Yes, that's all the administrative assistants that were called titled secretarial
Okay.
positions. Now they're all administrative assistants across all the departments throughout the town.
Just something so I can make the motion. I'll make a motion to adjust that to up to where it's at with everybody else. I don't know if that,
For the max.
for the min max, yep,
Adjusting the max to 17.
yep, adjust the min max to, what was it, 17?
17 is the min.
17,
I second that.
discussion? No, I said,
No discussion.
no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the last thing I have this evening, Mr. Chairman, is we had talked about a work session with the roadways and sidewalk concerns on a work session. I was just going to throw out the possibility of doing April 13th for that work section. If the boards, that seems to work for the board, or we can push it out a little bit more and go
Be
to
out of
another
town
week.
that evening, but you guys can do it.
I have to look to see if I have something. I think I have something on the 13th,
Okay,
but it's at home.
but we can,
Is there another date that would work for everyone?
That's the only night I have this month that's planned.
Maybe a little later date.
Yeah, we can, if you want, we can wait until, it's just a work session, so we don't have a timeline. It's like a public hearing to
Mhm.
post. So
Mhm.
if you want, we can wait until the next meeting when the full board's here and maybe decide the following week after
That would
that
be
one.
better.
Because we're trying to do it on an
Yeah,
off
I
week,
think
so you
that'd
don't
be
have two
better.
meetings in 1 week. So.
While we're on that, Mr. Administrator, Mr. Chairman, I would like to have it that maybe the Public Works Director come in and just gives a presentation of what their future plans are for the roads and the sidewalks before we open up public hearing, because that might settle some things, looking at it going down the road. To give a short presentation of what their plans are going down the road for the future of Alton roads and sidewalks. If it's agreeable to the board.
Yeah, I agree.
As soon as we
If
have,
it's doable.
What's that? Yeah, yeah.
Just a quick update in regards to that. We will have the road surface management study. The folks will be here the second week in May to do that. And then that'll take probably a couple weeks for them to do all their stuff. They do their magic, put it in the computer. They'll generate out what our pavement condition index will be. And then it'll also give us some forecasting. So we'll know, if we want to stay with, say the score comes back for our roads at a 77 or a 78. And we say, well, we're pretty pleased with the condition of our roads, and we'd like them to be just a little bit better. And it'll tell you roughly, what kind of money you need to spend on your roadway network in order to keep up with that. And then, of course, we can talk more about but I just as far as planning, if you want to do some stuff preliminarily, I can shoot from the hip a little bit on stuff that I've seen over the last year, and different things that we need to step up on and address going forward, pavement preservation being one of the key.
Well, I think that would be great. And then you could also talk about what you're doing. That will be available later on down the road, say such as August, when you get a final report.
Glad to, and if the board would like, since it's going to be a work session, I can certainly put together a quick PowerPoint. That way, folks that might be in the audience or watching on TV or however you
Good
do it.
idea.
That way they can see a little bit about why we do things, different types of pavement treatments and the reason why on that situation there. Actually tomorrow, Brock
that's what we're teaching tomorrow.
and I are going to be involved in some instruction tomorrow and some panel discussions there with other folks throughout the state talking about that. So
The more we can educate the public of why you're doing certain things and why certain roads get done, why
Exactly.
certain roads don't. If more we can educate them, because I know the two roads that we talked about most will be Roberts Cove Road, entering from 28 on the south side of 28. And then the other part is going to be Stockbridge Corner Road, Valley Road. So, but the more we can educate them, the better off we are.
and I'm hoping that on the 18th, haven't presented it yet to the town administrator yet, but I'm hoping on the 18th to give you some preliminary information about Roberts Cove Road. So I can get some direction from the board as to how you'd like to see that project move forward. And then we'll engage in some neighborhood discussions as well, so we can make sure we keep them informed and talk with them as well, so they know what's going on, especially since our construction period is going to be during the summer months and how that's going to impact folks down in that neighborhood. They're pretty pleased. We've been down there doing some preliminary stuff already, staking it out, getting some offsets done, and stimulated some good conversation from residents. So hopefully on the 18th, I'll have enough information together that I can get some direction from the board as to how you'd like to move forward with that project.
That'd be good.
Thank you,
Thank
Scott.
you very much.
All right. Anything else?
Oh, no, that's all I had tonight.
Approval of minutes. February 7th, 22, non-public session.
So move, Mr. Chairman, on that one. And
Second. on that.
Second.
All those in favor?
oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
Sorry
sorry.
for discussion.
Discussion.
I kind of jumped on that just a little bit too soon, because there should be some items that are not divulged in that. Item 3, item 4. Those should be the only items that should not be divulged, if I'm correct on that, Mr. Administrator.
Yes, because all other actions have been taken and where money's expended, so we should be also.
So that would be divulging number 1, and number 5, Mr. Chairman, and not divulging number 2, 3, or 4.
Okay. The second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
March 21st, 2022, public session.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second for discussion. I'd like to make a correction. Page 4, number 11, payroll and contracts. The name of the town administrator was never mentioned. Was very careful in that. I think we'd have to go back to the video or to the tape, but the town administrator's name was never used. It was only used as administrator in discussion. So putting the name of the administrator in that is incorrect. So I'd like to amend it to say just the subject being town administrator.
You said what page, Paul? 4?
Page 4,
Okay.
number 11.
I think we go back and have them look, and if it wasn't mentioned in there, then we can,
That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
yep,
I'm asking to go back and review it because the name of the administrator was never mentioned.
yeah, I don't have an issue with.
And that
reviewing
would have
it.
been an issue
Yep,
if
no,
it had.
if it's, yeah, if there's,
I'll withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman.
We can
Make a
table it
motion to
till
next-
table the
table it.
table it,
minutes.
okay.
Table it to next week.
Motion table, March 21st, 2022, public session minutes.
Okay. March 21st, 2022, non-public session minutes.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the March 21st, 2022 non-public session minutes. Item 1. Item 3. Item 4, because we just approved what the question was on item 4, not divulging item 2. Whether I don't know if everybody else agrees with that or not, but that's up to
I
the
agree.
board.
I think we have to divulge number 2 because at the end, the action that was taken was appointment to a new position.
I agree.
I think, yeah, I was gonna say, I think the only person that it would have is the town administrator and,
Yep, that's fine. Divulge all.
okay.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda approval.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have item 7 and 8 discussed in non-public session.
Okay.
Motion make.
Can I make that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, item 6, item 9.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So now. All right, public input, limited to 5 minutes per person on any governmental or town business.
Warren Carr. There was a discussion last meeting about these contracts with town kind of got kind of curious about it, so made a request for the last one and the previous one. And I kind of surprised, evidently there was an amendment on our former employee, and then like 3 or 4 months later, there was an amendment and a change in the raises. So I thought that was kind of strange. And although this has showed up before about this just clause, after reading some of this other, I don't know if there's much strength in that because it refers back to the rest of the town employees. And you have to have just cause for them. So I'm kind of wondering if there was much teeth to that anyway. But anyway, that was kind of eye opener for me. How that got changed after 3 or 4 months. Someone's contract gets changed, but anyway. Can I ask on number 5 for Memorial Day Parade? I think it's really important, and it used to be done all the time. I don't know why it got kind of forgotten, but it's really important that the selectmen address, when you come back from the cemetery, we usually have a little presentation out here in front of the town hall. It's really important that the selectmen address the community because, you know, you're representing the town. And for the town not to show the appreciation of these people who have died in horrible, horrible deaths in war and everything else, it doesn't seem quite right. You know, I know you're not speech writers. I did it a couple years, and all you have to do is go on the internet, and there's thousands of speeches, and all you have to do is say, I want to reread this speech, and you know, express some appreciation from the town, because you people, the elected, the fathers of the town, you know, that's what they used to say. But I think it's important that we have that. It's been kind of slushed off lately. And I know the American Legion appreciates it. Can I ask, I never heard of this alternative housing committee before. What is that? When did that come up? How did that start? What is that? Alternative housing? A TP? I mean, no, I'm just kidding, but what is that?
It was a part of a subcommittee to talk about alternative ways of having development or housing for people in town, like for the elderly, if they were selling their homes, if they were looking to downsize their properties, downsize their homes in areas of like, and seeing if there's any interest in having alternative housing like cabin colonies or tiny home colonies. That's what was discussed.
Is this the planning board started this?
It was part of the planning board, but it was also part of the other committee as far as the
You said master plan earlier.
it was part of it was all part of talking about for the master plan and plugging it into the master plan.
Well, I was involved in all that rigmarole about the alternative, not the alternative, sorry, the what do we call it? The sorry. Workforce Housing Committee business, all that back 10 years ago and all. So we had quite a few discussions about that, and a lot of people were upset about it because they don't seem to understand the state mandates that, and it's how we can set up our regulations on those laws. So it sort of kind of sounds like that, to tell you the truth, because, you know, all it was so a contractor could build a housing to address Ruben's concerns. So there was a lot of work on that. I don't know, some of the minutes maybe would be helpful.
Thank you.
And one more thing, you're buying a truck with 112,000 miles on it.
It's 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
We're buying a truck with 112,000 miles on it. Is that the 60-foot boom one?
I think it's only 40.
40,
40?
Yeah.
I think it was, right? 42.
42.
Oh, 40, good. Oof. Well, if we would consider buying a 112,000 truck, then why are we getting rid of a pickup that's only got 73,000 miles on it? Kind of interesting. I think maybe we ought to look, instead of every 5 years, maybe we ought to look at what the actual truck is. And I think mileage is more important than it is that it's 5 years old. You could have a truck 5 years old and only has 20,000 miles on it. I don't think that's a time to get rid of it. So I just kind of interesting that that came up tonight. Thank you.
All right. Non-public session. Make a motion to enter into non-public meeting per RSA 91A, 91A:3, 2, under A and E.
Second.
All those in favor?
Now you gotta do a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call. And Andrew? Yep. Ruben?
Yes,
Paul? Brock, yes. Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.